Happy 2022! Hello everyone, welcome to another video. So, this is actually my 30th video. Pretty good. But anyway, we're going to be doing something really fun today. This is the last video I think I'm going to film in 2021. By the time you see it, it will be 2022. And I've been seeing a lot of people doing reading wrap-ups, talking about their favourite books of 2021. And as you know, I do like to read. But when I tried to pick my favourite books of 2021, it was painful. I just couldn't decide. I've read a lot of good books this year. I think I'm on 47 books at the minute. Almost at 50, but not quite. Which pains me a little bit, but you know, 47 is a good number. Last year, I read over 100 books. But then the world was closed last year, so I'm not going to beat myself up about it too much. But, on to the books. I decided... You've heard me talk a lot about books this year. You've heard me talk about my favourites. You've heard me promise which books I'm going to read that I inevitably never did. So I have decided to come up with a variety of questions. I've put them in a jar. I genuinely thought it would be more impressive than this. It looks like such a pathetic amount. I swear this is the only jar I could find. This absolutely massive one. There are quite a decent amount of questions in there, although you wouldn't think to look at it. And I thought I could just rummage around, put my hand in, pull one out, see what happens. I'll probably be getting up quite a lot in this video to grab books, so lighting might change, positioning might change, who can tell? But we're going to see what happens, and I'm really excited to get into it. I haven't talked about books in a little while, not since early autumn I don't think, so this will be really fun. I've forgotten most of the books that I've read this year. I'll be checking on my phone because I've got a log of all of them, and we'll see what happens. Time for the first question. I'm really excited. I'm not sure if shaking is actually going to make much of a difference, but a bit of sort of ASMR for you. I'm having too much fun. So, oh, my hand is just fitting in there. What's it going to be? Oh, best translated fiction. I am so excited about this question. I am also so annoyed because I have searched high and low and I cannot, for the life of me, find this book, which is really annoying because it's genuinely one of my favourite books of the year. I think I must have left it in Oxford, but I was sure I brought it home. I don't know where it is. But anyway, my favourite translated book this year was Lonely Castle in the Mirror, and I can't remember who wrote it. 1 second. Let's see, what did I read? Yes, Lonely Castle in the Mirror by Mizuki Sugimura. I hope I'm saying that right. Apologies if not. I loved this book. I'm not going to say too much because Jemima and I, Jemima Rose, have a book club together, which you may have watched a few episodes of, and we are planning on doing a book club for this. You know that craving for a book that's genuinely magical and genuinely bends the realms of fiction, sweeps you up in it, but all comes together really beautifully. It's about this girl whose mirror starts glowing one day and she realises it's a portal into a secret castle where there's a magic key that could grant her a wish, but she's also in there with lots of other children, and the tie between all of them is that they don't go to school. It's so good. I really want to read more work by this author. Love that one, okay? I might regret throwing those pieces of paper on the floor later. Let's move on to the next one. Give it a shake. Saddest book. Oh my goodness. The saddest book I read this year was, without a doubt, Betty by Tiffany McDaniel. This book broke my tiny heart into a million pieces. What's funny is, I'd really recommend this book, but not for everyone. It's quite dark, it's got a lot of really difficult themes and very upsetting scenes in it because it tells the life of Tiffany McDaniel's mother, Betty, who was half white, half Cherokee, and had a very difficult childhood, but ultimately this is kind of her phoenix story of her rising from the ashes and being strong no matter what. It's really inspiring. If you want to hear my full thoughts about it, watch the episode of the book club that I did with Jemima. I'll link it down below. But yes, very good book. I almost didn't finish it because it was so hard going, but it is really good. So that's that one. Next question. Book that took you on a journey. I'm so excited about this one. So this is, can you guess, Poison for Breakfast by Lemony Snicket. This book, it didn't just take me on a journey, it took me on a quest. I'm going to link the video below, but I challenged myself to do everything that Lemony Snicket does in this book in one day, because it's set in a day, and I genuinely love this book so much. Lemony Snicket, Daniel Handler, is one of my favourite authors of all time, and I actually got to meet him at a book signing, and I told him about my video, and he was genuinely bewildered. And this is a man that, like, nothing phases him at all. He was telling children at this signing that they were all going to die. Nothing fazed him. But when I told him this, he was flummoxed, is the word I would use. And he said, is this something you do with every book you read? What happened when you read Hamlet? And we had a really lovely conversation. It was one of the most important books I read this year because it really did take me on a journey. And I can't recommend it enough. It's so good. But if you want to know more about that, do watch the video down below. I had a lot of fun. Next question. Book by a favourite author. Aside from Lemony Snicket, Keep the Aspidistra Flying was one of my favourite books this year. This is a lesser known book by George Orwell, who is one of my favourite authors. I know it's a cliche. He was quite problematic. I did a big project as part of a presentation I had to give for my English GCSE a long time ago, and I researched his whole life, I read a lot of his books, but I'd never read this one. And Ariel Bissett, who is one of my favourite booktubers, podcasters, people, recommended this one because Orwell is also one of her favourite authors. I loved it. It's the perfect book for a 20-something entering these end times. It's about a man who kind of reminded me of the older Adrian Mole. He's very cynical and he decides that he can just step out of capitalism, that he doesn't want to be ruled by the money gods. It's really funny. It's quite tragic as well, and I'd highly recommend it. I also love these covers. I've got a few of them. They're from the 80s by Penguin, and I love this block typography with the Penguin logo and the O. But yes, definitely recommend that one. The audiobook is also fantastic. Let's pick the next one. What's it gonna be? Top 3 TBR. Okay, so this is the books I want to read next year. Number 1, The Murderer's Ape by Jacob Wegelius. I've completely butchered that. Jacob Wegelius. Wegelius? Maybe it's Jacob. Who knows? I am so excited about this book. So this was recommended by Lena Norms, who is another one of my favourite content creators. It's a children's book, but it is thick. And Lena said it felt to her like reading the first Harry Potter book for the first time. And although we're not big fans of JK on this channel, they are very good books. And I'm excited to have that feeling again. I'm really looking forward to reading it. It's from the perspective of a gorilla who tries to prove that her companion has not committed a murder. You know, just normal stuff. The next one is one that I'm very embarrassed to have bought as a hardback. I knew inevitably it would end up coming out in paperback and I wouldn't have read it. It's a signed edition. The Other Black Girl by Zakiya Delilah Harris. I hope I've said that right. I love this cover. This I'm really interested about because it says it's like The Devil Wears Prada but set in publishing, and part of my degree is publishing. I'm really excited to read this. I picked it up and I was going to read it immediately, and then I found out it's quite scary and quite dark, and I wasn't really in the mood for that at that time, but I really want to read this and I'm hoping to read it at some point soon. And then number 3 is a graphic novel. This is Orwell, more like Go Well. God. My outfit is just matching this perfectly. So this was a recommendation on the Books Unbound podcast, which is one of my favourite podcasts ever. If you love books, you have to listen to it. I'm going to put that down in the description as well. I need to make a list. But this looks amazing. This is a graphic novel all about George Orwell's life by Kristen Verdier, who I've never read anything by before, but it is just beautiful. It's got different art styles in, so a bit of black and white, a bit of colour in there as well, going through his life. And as I said, I have researched Eric Blair, George Orwell's life, quite extensively, but it was when I was 16 or 17, so quite a while ago, and I'm really looking forward to finding out more about it again. I love a good graphic novel. I haven't read a really good graphic novel in quite a while now, so I'm hoping to get into that one. It is quite text heavy. I wasn't expecting it to be quite so text heavy, and the illustrations are really detailed, which means I'll probably want to spend a long time reading this. So I'm not expecting it to be a quick read. I do want to read it. I don't know how soon I'll read it, but I am really looking forward to that one. The next one is a Christmas present. Interesting. So I actually didn't get books for Christmas. I got a few other lovely things, but I did get one that I think counts as a book. This is something I have literally wanted for 3 years. My really close friend Anya and I went to this bookshop in London. It was a really tiny independent. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but they had this book and these cards. I can't wait to show you. This is the autonomic tarot set and the handbook as well that came separately. This is the book. But this is an original deck, all lino cuts by one of my favourite ever artists, Sophie Hollington. As you may know from watching this channel, I do read tarot. I'm very much an amateur, but I really love it. It helps to give me a bit of clarity and helps me with decision making and to see things in a new perspective. These cards are just gorgeous. I love the back. They're so beautiful. Sophie is one of my favourite artists. I've bought a couple of books because she's done the covers and she has done a few covers. You might have seen her work popping up. But these cards are just stunning. I just love them. But this is the book that goes with it. It explains all the thinking behind the cards. This is quite a personal deck to the creator of the cards, David Keenan. So I'm really excited. I believe this has fiction behind each card and a sort of story as well. So I'm definitely going to sit down and give that a read at some point. Really excited about those ones. Next one. DNF. No! Don't call me out like that. This is really unexpected. The Diviners by Libba Bray. You might remember I talked about this in my autumn recommendations video because I just started it and I was enjoying it, but it just really irritated me. I really didn't like the way it was written. I didn't like the dialogue. It felt really corny because it was set in kind of Great Gatsby, America, and everything was just too over the top. I didn't even get past the exposition of this. It just wasn't for me. I ordered a beautiful edition. I was really looking forward to reading it, but it was not the one. She wasn't the one. Sorry. Book that made you cry. I've talked about it before. It's genuinely one of the best books I've read all year, possibly even ever. It's The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune, who is subsequently one of my new favourite authors. Although I'm yet to read his other work, I have 2 of his books. I've started both, and then I've just got too scared that it won't be as good. This is amazing. I'm almost 100% sure I cried, but I think it was from happiness. I was just so in love with this book. I have forced it upon several of my friends who have all loved it. So if you haven't read it yet and you want a cosy, queer, fantastical, magical, lovely book, this is the one. It's brilliant. That's all I can say. What's it gonna be? Favourite new author? Ooh, okay. I can think of two off the top of my head. Number one is Brit Bennett, who wrote The Vanishing Half. I also have The Mothers downstairs, but I haven't read that yet. Something to look forward to. This book was fantastic. I've definitely talked about it before, so I won't go into too much depth, but it's about these twin girls and you watch them grow up and they're both black, but they could pass as white. And one of them lives her life as a black woman in her hometown, and one of them moves away and tries to forge an identity as a white woman. It's such a good book. I loved it. I loved it. I can't wait to read more of her work. It's a great one. And then another new favourite author is Kazuo Ishiguro. I read Clara and the Sun for the first time this year. I loved Clara and the Sun. It was brilliant. It was beautiful. This edition makes my heart sing. And I've bought three more of his books, which are now just staring at me because I need to read them. Favourite new release? Without doubt, my favourite new release was Malibu Rising. It's not going to be a surprise. You've heard me talk about this one at length. It was my first ever book club book with Jemima. This is brilliant. If you have siblings, if you enjoy reading about family dynamics, if you've wondered what life is like behind doors for celebrities, this is the book for you. However, I'd describe it as the perfect summer read, so maybe save this one for later on in the year. I don't think I would have enjoyed it as much if I hadn't read it in summer, because it is just transportive. It takes you there, and so I'd say save this one till later on, but it is brilliant. I loved it so much. Least favourite book? Oh yes, I did have a least favourite book. It is the enormous, the biggest book I have ever read in my life, the most time I have ever spent on a book in my life, Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clarke. Controversial, I know, and also interesting because Piranesi by Susanna Clarke is one of my favourite books. This was the first book I finished in 2021 and it just felt like a slog. I was exhausted. The final 200 pages, I remember the pace picked up and it got quite interesting, but the first 800, it was over 1,000 pages, people. I don't know how I did it. I was just so bored. And I'm sorry, Susanna, because so many people love this book and Piranesi is a corker. It's a great one. But this one, it was not for me. I was bored. I'm sorry. Let's move on. Scariest book? Ooh, okay, there are two actually, which is a surprise because I don't normally like scary books, but I really enjoyed both of these. So we have Something Wicked This Way Comes. You've heard me talk about it on the book club. It was fantastic. I put it on as an audiobook to help me get to sleep. Big mistake. Was not sleeping. On the edge of my seat / bed. Brilliant book. And then an unexpected one. These books, the Aveline Jones series, which a viewer actually recommended to me. I might not have ever picked up these books, but a lovely viewer recommended them to me. I can't remember who it was off the top of my head, but these are brilliant. They're terrifying. But spooky and cosy and scary, and they're not like children's books where everything can be explained away. They very much get very creepy and there's not a logical explanation behind it, which I loved. Highly recommend these. I cannot wait for the next ones to come out. The covers are some of my favourite covers all year. This one in particular might be one of my favourite covers of 2021. And they kind of remind me of me a bit, you know? When I had shorter hair back in February, Aveline does have a bit of Anna about her, I think. But yes, I loved these. They were great. Best picture book. Okay, I have two. Number 1 is one that I requested and got sent by the publisher, who are Gecko Press, and I adored this book. This is Leilong the Library Bus by Julia Liu and Bei Lin. I hope I'm saying that right. You might be thinking, Anna, you don't have children, but you might remember I used to work in a bookshop and I was the kids' bookseller. I read a lot of children's books. I needed to be able to recommend them. This is just so lovely. I wish I'd had this as a child. This is about Leilong, a dinosaur who is desperate to go to the library, and he ends up becoming a travelling library. The art style is just beautiful. I loved it. Highly recommend if you've got dinosaur/book loving little people in your life. And then my other favourite picture book is one that's very close to my heart. This is Grandads Camper by Harry Woodgate, who is my lovely friend. I am so excited and proud of them. Honestly, Harry is going to be the next big thing, I am telling you. They've already got a whole host of picture books out. They are the person that does the National Book Tokens book quiz every year. Their illustrations are incredible. Like, honestly, I think maybe they're an old soul that has come back and was a famous artist in a past life because I don't understand how someone can be that talented. It's about a little girl who goes to her grandparents and her granddad tells her all about his adventures with Gramps, his husband, in their camper van. I love this book. Sorry, just had to put new batteries in my microphone, which I think is maybe a sign that I need to get a move on. Final few, I promise. Happiest Book. Okay, I'm really excited about this. So aside from The House in the Cerulean Sea, which filled my soul with good feelings, there are two that I loved. Oggy and Me by R.J. Palacio. This is connected to Wonder, which is one of my favourite books ever. It was recommended to me by my friend Hannah, and I loved it so much. This is just really happy. It's got short stories about some of the characters in Wonder, and I loved it. And then the second one is The Secret Countess by Eva Ibbotson. Eva Ibbotson is one of my favourite authors. She's also one of my mum's favourite authors. This book had me grinning so much at the end that my face hurt. It's such a lovely book. It's about this countess that is forced to work as a maid in a house because she loses everything in the First World War. And I just loved it. It's brilliant. It's heartwarming. Definitely a pick-me-up book. Best children's book. Ooh, okay. So number 1 would definitely be Aveline Jones. I love this series. Cannot wait for book 3. But one I haven't talked about yet that was a bit of a surprise, to be honest, was Witch Week by Diana Wynne Jones. I got this amazing secondhand copy from Gravity Books, who are one of my favourite secondhand booksellers. I'll put them down below as well. And I really enjoyed this. I think I gave it 4 stars, but this is by the author of Howl's Moving Castle, which I'm yet to read, but I loved this book. It's about a world where witches are absolutely illegal. Like, if you're found out to be a witch, you'll be burnt at the stake. And someone accuses a child at this boarding school of being a witch, but nobody knows who the witch is. There's just a mysterious note that says someone in this class is a witch. And I loved it. It's really entertaining. It's really fun. It's a quick, easy read. Highly recommend if you like spooky, fun, witchy things. Unexpected favourite, The World According to Garp by John Irving. I wish my camera wasn't about to die because I could talk about this forever. If you want a book that will just swallow you up whole, highly recommend this one. It was brilliant and I loved it so much. So, time for a very quick ending before my camera dies. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know down below what your favourite books are. I would love to find out. If you enjoyed this video, you can give it a like and you can also hit subscribe, but only if you fancy. I'm really looking forward to a new year of videos. Thank you so much for sticking around and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!